We can now take you to Parliament. We understand that there's a lot of development there. Indeed, there's a bit of an update to the demand by some 4 members of Parliament on the New Patriotic Party side, demanding for a further probe into circumstances leading to the death of the late John Evans Atta-Mills, the former president of Ghana. We can now take you to Parliament. My colleague Parker Wilson is there, has more updates as well on what's happening on the case of Sarah Adjoa-Safo. Parker, if you can hear me, first of all, brief us on the latest with regard to the probe into the death of former President John Evans Mills.
Now, Blizzard, you remember that yesterday I indicated to our viewers that for every private member's motion, there should be stated ground for why you want Parliament to expend resources to investigate and probe whatever issue that you have decided to engage their attention on. We can talk about the one Ogunyata Black filed about the foreign trips of the president and also the minority on the election violence, the 2020 election violence. Now, today it is imagined that the 4 NPP MPs who filed the private members' motion to investigate the death of Professor Mills, 2 out of the 4 have denied knowledge of assenting their signature to this private member's motion. In effect, all they are saying is that they are not consulted, they have no knowledge, and that they should be taken off the private member's motion. I have with me the Member of Parliament for Bandai and, of course, the Deputy Minority Chief Whip, Ahmed Ibrahim, with me. Honorable, thank you very much. You are making a serious allegation this afternoon that 2 out of the 4 NPP MPs have denied knowledge of the private members' motion. These 2 you are talking about, who are they, sir?
Wilson, let me say a very good evening to your cherished listeners. You were there when I asked the Honorable MP, Ne Noy, who categorically stated that he has no knowledge of the motion. Right. And therefore, they've written to their leadership to strike their names out of that motion. And before I spoke to Ninoy, I called Honorable OPK, right. David Ansopo, the Honorable member for Praiso. He also was categorical that he has no knowledge of such a motion. And that somebody used their names, he and Ninoy. So Dennis Ansopo and Ninoy, the MP for Tema Central, the MP from Praiso and the MP for Tema Central have spoken to me, and you yourself, you were there. You saw the MP for Tema Central. He is telling me that he has no knowledge of the motion and that somebody took their names with that signature. So I followed up to the speaker's, Right Honorable Speaker's office to go and have a look at those who signed or appended their signatures on the motion. To my surprise, the names Dennis Oksepokun was there. Ninoy Note Tema Central was also there, and Habib Ibrahim was also there, and Frank Anodompre was also there. However, it was only the signature of Frank Anodompre that was appended to the signature, to the motion. The 3 other MPs did not sign. So which confirmed the statement being made by the MP from Praiso and the MP for Tema Central that they did not append their signature to any motion. It is true.
But since the leadership has filed a motion like that, is it mandatory? Is it compulsory that every member would have to sign this document?
This raises matters of perjury and impersonation. If the MP for Tema Central, who relate to the late Professor Mills anyway, whose name is being used on a motion for investigation that he has no knowledge of, this is tantamount to perjury and impersonation. And I believe the House as a whole must investigate into that act. And secondly, the 2 MPs
you are calling for an investigation into this matter, how these 2 other MPs were added to the motion without their knowledge. Is that what you're saying?
Politicians in Ghana have deficit in terms of trust. And this was compounded when the member for Kwabenya, somebody was brought to come and vote on his behalf, which the ranking member of Foreign Affairs raised that matter has not been brought to finality. Right. Then today, what we are hearing is that there is impersonation, whereby people's who representatives names are used on the motion that they are not privy to. If you go to social media, you will see posts like the four stupid fools. And for the people of Praia to see their MP's name being labeled and Peter being labeled as a fool, that he has no interest in their development. All he's interested in is to be doing post-mortem on somebody that he does not even relate to. Then for the people of Tema Central, to see their MP's picture and name on the social media, be insulted. If your MP is insulted, you also be insulted. Meanwhile, these two MPs have no knowledge of what is being happening. So it means the person who wrote their names on the motion must be brought to book. And I think this matter is not only impersonation, it's not only perjury, it goes beyond that.
Well, just for clarity, so we know that Anodom Prayer is the one who left this motion. I therefore suggested that he'll be held before the House to answer questions. Is that what you're saying?
I'm saying more than that. The two the Praesu MP and the Tema Central MP have written to Anodom Prayer and Mr. Bos to take their names out of such a frivolous and vexatious motion. So if backbenchers are able to angrily write to their leadership, going against their leadership on something wrong that their leadership have done, it brings the image of the House into disrepute. And what causes it? If the leadership on the majority are able to do wrong things like this on behalf of the people they are leading, and this is breach of trust. So we have to investigate into this and know how we can prevent and avert such matters from happening in this parliament again. So they will not only be held before the Privileges Committee, there will be a discussion at the leadership level, and we in minority will not allow this one. When the Adwa Safu's own came and we didn't investigate, today you see what they are doing. They are signing motions on behalf of other people, falsifying people's names and people's image. And this will compound the credibility and integrity deficit, the trust deficit that we have as a house.
Honorable, thank you very much for your time this afternoon. So, Blessed, that's the Deputy Minority Chief Whip, and his concerns are quite simple, that Frank Anodom Prayer, who is the Member of Parliament for Nsawam Adwedri, will be hauled before the Privileges Committee to answer questions on why he added names of his colleagues who have no knowledge of this particular private member's motion bill to probe the demise of the late President, John Evans Atta Mills.
And we also need to touch on the issue of the Kwabenya MP, Sarah Adjo-Asafo. We understand that after today, officially it will mean that she's not been present in Parliament or present for parliamentary duties for 15 working days. There are implications to that. What more do we know?
That's correct, Blessed. So Parliament resumed this year session on 25th of January 2022. And you know that Parliament works within 4 days in a week. If you do the mathematics, today is actually 15 days. And order 15 is clear, 15.2 is clear that an MP, if you absent yourself from the chamber, you need permission. Now, if you go to order 16, now it talks about even if you are given the permission, you need to justify why you should absent yourself from the chamber. Then order 17 now takes you to sanctions if you do not have any permission at all. So your conduct will be referred to the Privileges Committee for sanction. But I must say that I am getting information within the camp of the NPP that on Tuesday they will invoke order 16 to ensure that Sarah Adjo-Asafo is compelled to return to Ghana and continue her parliamentary duties. And I must say that in Parliament, I mean, sometimes when colleagues are not around, they call their colleagues to just write their names for them. Since he left, no member of the NPP has written his name. In fact, they have refused to write his name and capture her name as present in the chamber. And that is why today we are learning that it is 15 working days. So on Tuesday, we know, or we picked information, that the NPP, some members of the NPP who are peeved and incensed over the conduct of their colleague Adjo-Asafo will invoke order 16 and 17 and refer her conduct to the Privileges Committee. If the committee establishes that indeed her absence is not without justifiable cause, then a recommendation per the practice and the rules of this House will be made to the effect that a seat should be declared vacant in compliance with the standing orders of this House.
And I'm grateful for the updates that you're giving me now. Fortunately, there are implications, obviously, if the seat of the Kwabenya MP is declared vacant. That will obviously have some implications also for the majority side in Parliament. Joining us now, but Parker, if you're still with us, just before I bring in my guest, we understand that there's another development also on the NIA. What more is happening with regard to the registration exercise?
Raised concerns about some of his constituents who are yet to acquire the Ghana card. And if you recall, Blessed, that the Vice President consistently has made the point that the Ghana card would be used as a form of registration going forward into the 2024 election. And so it is quite surprising that we are in 2022, just about a year or 2 years away from that. Some constituents within the Tamale North constituency do not have the Ghana card. And it is not peculiar to them alone. Even here in Accra, you see the long queues. People are still here to get the Ghana card. And so the NIA board or officials have been programmed before Parliament. In fact, they've been summoned actually to come and answer questions on the ongoing registration. What is happening? How many people have been registered? Whether indeed the claims that it will be used as a form of registration going into the 2024 election are true or not. So we are expecting the NIA official, including Kanatefa himself, to be in Parliament on Wednesday to answer every parliamentary question from every member of Parliament who has concerns and issue with the ongoing process.
Well, let's have some discussion on this. Joining us from on Zoom is Dr. Rashid Draman with the Africa Center for Parliamentary Affairs. Also joining us is the Executive Director for the Parliamentary Network Africa, Sami Obeng. They are all joining us via Zoom. Thank you, gentlemen, for joining us. First of all, we know that the governing side is obviously worried about the continuous absence of the Kwabenya MP. But now that officially, after 15 days, she's liable to some sanctions. What is it that you predict? First of all, let me start off with you, Sami. What do you see happening or unfolding from next week if we don't see the Kwabenya MP appear in Parliament?
Well, it is interesting that for the very first time, this conversation about a member of Parliament being absent for the 15 sitting days is being brought up by people, or is intended to be brought up by people who are within the members' own caucus. That's a very interesting development. But yes, our constitution is very clear. Under Article 97, which speaks about the grounds on which a member can vacate or must vacate the seat, it talks about how if a member absents himself or herself without permission, and that's the catchword, in writing of the speaker for 15 sitting days in a particular meeting, then the matter must be brought to the attention of the Privileges Committee, Parliamentary Privileges Committee, if there is no reasonable explanation by that particular member. And many years, we have actually spoken about this issue of members absenting themselves from the House and how it affects parliamentary business. We've spoken about how members must stick to the responsibilities that they have in attending to parliamentary business. So if this will be a test case for us to see the extent to which they
well, we seem to be having a challenge there, but let's also bring in Dr. Rashid Draman, who's also on with us. And Doc, you've also been monitoring activities in Parliament. What do you have to say really about the continuous absence of this MP, and what are the likely implications, not just for the MP, but also the House as well? This is The Pulse. Thanks for staying with us here on the Joy News channel. We'll return with more stories. And welcome back to The Pulse. Sami Obeng, fortunately, is joining us back. Fortunately, we had some connection challenges there. But Sami, you're making the point about what the standing orders of Parliament has to say about the continuous absence of a member of Parliament beyond 15 working days.
Parker, gave indications on what
Right.
the standing orders have got.
Right.
I want to elevate this beyond the standing orders and bring it even into the fold of the constitution of the land. The constitution says in Article 97, when it talks about tenure of office of members, in 97(1)(c), that if a member absents himself or herself without permission in writing of the speaker and is unable to offer reasonable explanation for why he or she is absent to the privileges committee from 15 sitting days of a particular meeting during a period that Parliament has been summoned, then of course it could have dire consequences on this particular member of Parliament. So the process is very clear constitutionally. If one has absented himself or herself from Parliament for 15 sitting days or more, which in the case of Madam Adjoa Safo she has, then the matter is supposed to be brought up for the attention of the Privileges Committee or to be referred to the Privileges Committee. Then, of course, once referred to the Privileges Committee, the Member of Parliament in question will have to come explain or give reasonable cause why there should be no punitive measures against it. The committee will then bring its report to Parliament and the process continues. But I was making the point that we have sat for too long as a country and have allowed elected members of Parliament in the past. We know of our colleagues, parliamentary monitoring organizations in Ghana who have published reports on MPs' absenteeisms. Unfortunately, successive parliaments have not taken these things seriously. And now it has come to bite.
So what will this mean for the governing side? Obviously, this is a time where the majority side is attempting to amass and to try and make sure that it has its numbers in place to pass the controversial subject, the bill on e-transactions. That's critical. The numbers are critical to government. So at this point where you have one of the MPs, their seats likely to be declared vacant, that would obviously spell doom for them, isn't it?
Well, obviously, strategy-wise, of course, the majority side in Parliament knows the consequences of this. And for me, like many other people who have been speaking about this matter over the years, I don't think that the sympathy should go to whether the majority side will have consequences or not have consequences. I am more concerned and worried about the people of Dom Kwabenya, who for 15 sitting days do not have a representative in Parliament representing their interest. I am interested in how, in the past, Parliament has sat aloof and allowed some of these things to go wrong and have not dealt with it decisively. I am interested in the precedent that this can set, which may probably help us to deal with the issue of absenteeism in Parliament.
So as we wrap up, you want the Speaker to be tougher on MPs and not just Sarah Adjoa Safo?
Well, we have always maintained that members of Parliament who absent themselves without permission, who do not come to Parliament, who do not perform the duties for which they have been elected, must be dealt with. There must be tougher sanctions for such, behavior. And so, yes, Parliament should be monitoring consistently those who are not doing well in relation to attending to Parliament's plenary committee sittings and all of that, and deal with these matters decisively. All right, and I'm grateful. That's Sami Obeng, Executive Director for Parliamentary Network Africa.